Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast with two guys in their 20s, giving their perspective on the games that we love and the story behind it all. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
It's
What's up?
good.
How you been?
Pretty good. We haven't talked in like over a week.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's actually been a week.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that is true.
yeah.
There were like three different times we were planning to do this, and you know, they all
It
got
just didn't happen. Yeah, it
w-
kind of just got away from us there.
So, any analysis on the game that you went to yesterday? Was it a competitive game?
Oh, it was. It was more so little league. So I don't know. We didn't see on the game when we go. So we called salvation on we play time game. I didn't go to UWM game. That's not the game I went to. I went to like a bunch of little league games. Pop
Gotcha.
Warner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of topics to get into today, as usual. And to start it off, Notre Dame, they had a close win versus Pittsburgh yesterday, and, and it was like it was one of those games where the ground game wasn't working as much. I think Pittsburgh held them to 80 yards. Ian Book, I think he had two interceptions. Still had an 81% completion percentage, but they're still undefeated, and there's there's been a bit of a controversy of if Notre Dame is undefeated. Well, a lot of people feel as though they have to be undefeated to have like a legitimate chance to sneak into the playoff. And now with the Big 12 having probably having a one-loss conference champion, now with West Virginia losing and Texas and Oklahoma having losses,
Yep.
um, the offense for Notre Dame has looked a lot more balanced with Ian Book and when Bush was more of a runner and a scrambler. But with how they've been looking and their narrow win versus Pittsburgh, what do you think of their chances so far?
Like you said, they're gonna have to go undefeated. But I think they don't have to do a lot now because a lot of teams lost. Like you said, West Virginia, Texas, Oklahoma, Miami lost. Georgia lost yesterday against LSU, which was an incredible, crazy game.
Yeah.
But now they're in a good spot right now. They do have to go undefeated, I believe, to kind of sustain their spot. And it just depends on where they put them in the polls. But the one thing I did like about Notre Dame's defense, they took away all the deep ball threats. It seems like Pickett had a hard time shredding shredding that defense, man. They had a hard time moving the ball when they had to rely on his arm alone. That if you can't pass on a defense or pass on any team, you're not going to be successful, especially if the running game is not moving the ball like he normally does. Because Pitt does have a good high power offense, but it kind of was stifled by Notre Dame's defense. I like the coverages they did. A lot of two man over top. He didn't have anywhere to go, so the defense
Yeah.
stepped up.
Yeah, and they've got 3 wins versus ranked opponents in Michigan, Stanford, Virginia Tech. Um, I mean, Stanford doesn't look like the same team that we thought they'd look like with the running game not being as effective. And, their blowout loss to Utah last week, which was, a surprising loss because
Right.
it's rare for a Stanford team to get dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And against Washington, not against Washington, but against Oregon, that's really what happened for most of the game until they had that comeback. And against Utah, the run game wasn't as effective. And then their win against Virginia Tech, a solid road win. But out of those 3 wins, do you feel like if let's say like a Oklahoma or Texas is a conference champion and Notre Dame has no losses, do you think that will be a resume that can get them over a Big 12 conference champion?
Because they do have
USC.
the telling of their schedule, and if they do, I think if they are undefeated, a hard time for those guys to take them out of the playoffs race. Just in top, pretty much solidify themselves as a team that can go both ways and continue to get back with their quarterback in the scheme that they do. So to be honest, if Oklahoma or Texas or those guys have one blemish and Notre Dame is undefeated, I don't think at all that they'll be scathed out of going to the playoff. Yeah, I think it'll be just like UCF. They did UCF last year. UCF went undefeated, beat a couple SEC teams, ACC teams, and then they were weren't in the playoff bid. So I don't think they'll make that mistake again this year. If Notre Dame is undefeated, they're in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs. Got it.
And I mean, right now, if I had to say like 4 teams, just the early, pick for the playoff in the 4 teams I see now, I think it would be Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson. Would you go with that 4, or is there somebody else you'd like in that 4?
You said
Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson.
Alabama, Clemson. I'll take Clemson out of there, just to the inexperience at the quarterback. I'll probably move maybe an LSU in there.
So you still think 2 SEC teams can get in?
I think so too. If Florida wins out, I think they have a chance because they beat LSU, and if they beat Georgia, if they win out all their games, they'll have an opportunity to get down there. Because
so you're not high on Trevor Lawrence.
I'm not. I never was. I liked him out of high school, but I didn't think he was ready for that type of fire coming straight out being a true freshman. I think Brian should still be that starting quarterback, or mixing them up and playing 2-sided quarterback like they do Jalen Hurts.
And with Alabama,
yeah. But sometimes that's just the meaning to a quarterback's character, especially if a quarterback is doing everything possible to win and he hasn't done anything to make you lose. So I know he has a big arm. I like his arm, but he's still inexperienced. You look at Blackman last year with Florida State. He was a true freshman because Francois got hurt the first game of the season. We saw the inconsistencies of a freshman quarterback, and you still see those in training. So I'm not down the road. They play a big team, down the road. I don't think they'll make it out alive. So
yeah, I mean they have a big one against NC State next week.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good game. I believe so. And I think FSU will play them hard too. So, yeah. I still think it's going to be 2 SEC teams, most definitely. If they win out, if Florida wins out and LSU wins out, it's going to be for the SEC championship. They'll still play Bama. Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. Well, I'll have to really think about that because I forgot about it.
You're having to reconsider.
Yeah, reconsider because I forgot about the SEC championship. But that's interesting. I know it's kind of hard to say Alabama will lose, but they're not, anybody can be beat. I feel like if
it's just hard to envision it right now.
I think
it's hard to envision any team beating them.
If Mizzou didn't have a lot of injuries on offense and one of their guys get thrown out for a late hit, I think that game would be so different. But I don't think Alabama has played a complete program just yet. Their schedule is a little light. I know Alabama fans. Oh, we were in the SEC. Your schedule is super light.
The only impressive, it's not the only non-conference big win they had was against Louisville. That wasn't impressive. And then against Texas A&M, which, it's an okay win, I guess you could say.
Exactly. So they won't get any, maybe Auburn. Auburn lost to Tennessee. Oh gosh. But Auburn always plays Alabama well. And I think this year will be different with the SEC championship, whoever goes. So I think the talent in the SEC is kind of well balanced. It's just getting to that point because Florida beat LSU,
especially the SEC West.
Coming back and beat Georgia. Yeah, exactly.
But this is a completely, off the topic question. But you were talking about those late hits and that defender getting thrown out in the Missouri game. As a guy who played football and as somebody who had experience who's seen those situations vividly, do you feel like what are your thoughts on those happening? Because I even saw that in the Washington Oregon game, and it's almost like defenders feel like, okay, how am I supposed to attack these guys?
Some plays is bang bang, but some plays guys can pull up
Mhm.
and stop their momentum shift, and they can jump over, or they don't have to fall on them. I know some plays guys get blocked into that or whatever the case may be, but it's extremely hard to kind of shift your body to a different way when it's going full speed at a guy that you're full speed and this guy is sliding, so it's kind of hard to pull up when you're
Mhm.
already diving at him or trying to tackle at his feet, because there's a lot of ankle biting, as we call it, tackling at the ankles. We call that ankle biting in football, if you didn't know. But it's extremely hard to do so. Just like the late hits and stuff on quarterbacks they're doing in the NFL, extremely hard to contort your body to do that. That's asking a lot from the defense. It's unreasonable. It's crazy. It's unfathomable. I'm gonna use another word. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. I'm sorry. It's extremely
Any
hard.
big
It's
word, just
extremely
use it from
hard
him.
to
Any
do
big
that.
word, just
Yeah,
just
shout
borrow it
out to
from
Stephen A. Smith.
him.
Shout out to Stephen A. But no, it's crazy to think these kids or anybody's grown man can contort their bodies in a way to not do a late hit or anything like that. These football is getting. I know you're trying to protect the money makers, which is the quarterback, but come on, give the defense a break.
Yeah. So you would put an LSU or Florida possibly in that last slot, um, uh, outside of rather than a Clemson who you feel as though has an inexperienced guy at the helm.
Yeah, and then you look at their defense. The defense is not playing. It's not
It's not lights out like
subpar.
we thought it would
They're
be.
playing good defense, but I just don't see them going. Yeah, it's not lights out when Deshaun Watson was there. When Kelly Brown was there last year, they did a phenomenal season coming from winning and they still went undefeated in the playoffs. So I just don't see them going into that, and I don't see West Virginia holding off into the end of the season. I don't think the defense is enough. I know Will Grier has a phenomenal arm; he's a great quarterback, but at some point you're you're going to get stopped. They're going to run some cover too. They're going to blitz you. Don't do different packages to get you get you out of your zone. But right now I'll say I think it's going to be two SEC teams in there in that slot, like they did Alabama. Alabama lost, and then they scooted them in there last year. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Transitioning to Texas, they're I think 5-1 right now, and currently, after the big win against Oklahoma, where they almost blew a three touchdown lead, but Sam Ehlinger, he had a really good game, 25 yards and rushed for 13, and it really feels as though the Big 12 is almost in a better position, not probably with this season in terms of like the likelihood of them a team making the playoff with Oklahoma losing, but when Texas is relevant, it's always better for college football and also better for the Big 12. And now that we've seen that they are relevant and they have a tendency to win low scoring games, and I don't think their offense is as potent as Oklahoma, but with Ehlinger being with Ehlinger being very impressive so far in these runs, and them being able to close out games, which they weren't able to do last year, and there were so many games where they had a chance in the fourth quarter to win them, but they couldn't close them out, and now they're actually closing out those games. So with what you've seen from them so far, and when I set up this topic, we were comparing Florida and Texas, with Florida having a big win versus LSU last week. With what Texas has done and Florida, how they've had more success than as they did last year, and being able to close out those tightly contested games, which team's success has kind of stood out to you the most?
What team success stood out the most?
Yeah, I mean, with how they're kind of overachieving so far, like Texas getting a big win versus Oklahoma, and possibly being in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship.
Right. I mean, yeah, they're definitely 4-0 in the conference play. They did.
Not saying that they will, be the Big 12, yeah, but
Yeah, but they're 4-0 right now, so
Yeah.
they're in the hot spot. They're in the good spot, the good life, as some people will call it. But they beat some impressive people. They always struggle with Maryland the first game of the season, and we saw that last year.
Mhm.
But they came back and beat Tulsa. These games are not big blowouts. They're close, but they're finding a way to win. They beat TCU, USC, Oklahoma was the biggest. We knew it was going to be a shootout because both of their defenses are shoddy, but those guys are finding a way to win. You pull out a win against Baylor, another conference foe. So they're doing all the right things to be a contender, not just for the Big 12, but for the playoff berth. But if they continue to walk down this road, the last team they'll have trouble with is West Virginia with Will Greer. But I don't think they'll have big trouble. Texas Tech plays people really close, but I think they'll come on with the win with that. So right now, I just like the all-around buy-in from the entire team, for both sides, from the head coach, from the special teams, whatever. Everybody's buying in. Last year was a lot of expectations. Now those expectations are being met. These guys, at first I told you I wasn't, sold on them just yet, but beating Oklahoma, beating USC, beating all this, and then beating Baylor. They always have trouble with Baylor for some reason, but
Yeah.
they beat them. They're looking good. Last team you have to beat is West Virginia.
Yeah.
You do that because you're going to beat Iowa State, Kansas. It's not as big as I thought it was from like the 3-4 years ago, but they're in a good spot. Texas is Texas finally back? Is Texas football finally back, bro?
Do you think they are?
I want to think so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Beating all these teams is not a coincidence at all. These guys have put in the work. They're buying in.
And there's been so many expectations for Tom Herman, especially in this second year. And after the Maryland win, we felt as though, oh, is this just going to be a repeat of last year? But Maryland, with the situation they were going through, that was an emotional game and a spirit could win. So maybe we put too much stock in another loss like that.
Right. And then Maryland is number 9 right now. So that can tell you something. Maryland is a good football team. So
yeah,
these guys have bounced back, and Texas might be back. Texas, that's crazy. That's a crazy saying. Texas might be back.
Yeah. And so would you say the same for Florida? Because you were saying you feel as though either Florida or LSU could possibly be the second team to get it, the second SEC team to get into the playoff as well.
The difference between LSU and Florida, both teams are great teams, evidently. So it's what I love about college football. Anybody can beat anybody. So It's not like solely like, oh, that's a W already. Anybody can beat anybody. And when Florida starts slow, they will not beat a top-tier team. But if we start fast and defense is going fast, that's what keeps us going. That's what gets the offense going, because I just really don't like our quarterback.
It seemed like that's always been the thing, because Florida's front seven's impressive. The running game is solid, but it's the quarterback play to me that hasn't made a significant jump. And I think with LSU, Joe Burrow, they have a significant jump at that position.
Yes, he's a decent quarterback, but if the running game is not working, they have trouble. The running game was working. They did a lot of outside zones, a lot of pitches getting to the edge of and it kind of gave Georgia a fit. So, and then that kind of, that opens up the passing lanes, that opens up deep ball threats, and then you run it down the throat again. And they had Georgia's number for the first quarter to the fourth quarter.
It's been a while since we've seen Georgia get dominated like that on both sides of the ball. That was just a complete, domination from a physicality, and LSU being the more aggressive team from the jump.
Yeah. And it wasn't like the running game wasn't working for Georgia with Swift, and for the other running back slips my mind right now. But I think it was the quarterback situation. They brought in Justin Fields a little bit, trying to adjust and bring a different look. But Fromm didn't look as poised as we're normally seeing him look on the football field. And I don't know if it was different coverages or the defense, but he just didn't look poised at all.
Yeah. And that's something especially with the win against Oklahoma and then how he played against Alabama for the first half, it was just like this guy is the moment's never too big for him. He looks always ready for the moment and always is gonna answer the bell. But against LSU, a team that could be really good, and has looked good so far, that wasn't the case. Transitioning to Michigan, there's been the thing with Harbaugh about not winning the big games, constantly being in positions where it seems like the program is underachieving with him, even though I think he's one of the best coaches in college football, and I think any team would want to have him. But Shea Patterson had a really good game, had an 81-yard running play. That's the longest Michigan's had since 2010, and he had 90 yards rushing. And the run game just in general for them was effective with 320 yards. And with them dominating Wisconsin and then having a big stretch where they've got, I think, Penn State, Michigan State, and then eventually Ohio State at the end of the season, they're in a very like, this 4-game stretch is pretty much going to define their season. And how they started it off with Wisconsin was very impressive. With how they've looked, because it seems like it could, how the Big Ten is decided is a showdown with them in Ohio State, but obviously, you know, a Michigan State or a Penn State could slip them up. How do you see their progress so far this season?
I think their offense depends on the run, and if the run is not going, then they're not successful. You see, he only threw for 124 yards, and I'm talking about Patterson. He only threw for 124 yards, 14-21. He's precise where he throws, but it's not any deep ball threats. They have struggled in the past, throwing against good defenses. If you come against a team like Ohio State, whose defense, their secondary is better from 2 years ago, I think it's going to be hard if you don't get Higdon rolling fast, and Patterson contributes in the run game as well. The running game has to be successful for Michigan. Their offense is based off the run, the I formation runs, a lot of dive plays out of the shotgun as well, depending on the offensive line, who's gotten better from last year. They have more experience on the O-line now. So it's just
so you're kind of saying that he kind of has to have like a Trace McSorley performance, and for them to do something smart on 4th and 5.
Yeah, most definitely, because you see McSorley is not a big-time passer. He doesn't have a big arm. They rely on the running game. They lost 2 games, and I think 2 of those was conference games, if I'm not mistaken. I'll fact-check that here shortly. But if the running game is not progressive for them, they're not going to be successful in their offense. And we've seen that when they lost the first game of the season against Notre Dame, and then the last 6 games have been Rudipoos except Wisconsin, but they beat Wisconsin convincingly. So, but the run game was good, and they kind of moved down the field. They did good things.
Yeah, and with the whole notion of just with the situation and constant barraging of Harbaugh can't win big games, and this is happening for the last couple of years. Do you see that as like a legitimate claim? I mean, because obviously he hasn't won those big games, but do you feel as though it's been having an effective quarterback, a quarterback who can run like Patterson can, or do you think it's just one of those things where this year is really where they have to show that they can win those big games, and this is a kind of not a do or die season, but like a defining season for this program?
I wouldn't say the defining season, but for the first 2, yes, because I think their schedule lines up so well for them. So they played a big game, and then the next 5 games they play Rudy Poop teams that'll get their confidence back up, and then you play a top 25 football team in Wisconsin who has been on fire, and then you beat them. Now it's on to the next one. You have a big bad Ohio State at the tail end of the season. So their schedule is mapped out perfectly for them to exceed expectations for not only just the coach, but the program as a whole, because it's a lot of, buzz around. Like you said, Michigan, he can't win big games. They struggled for last year. They struggled the year before that. So it's a lot of just like Texas, a lot of expectations for Michigan. Because Michigan used to be a powerhouse football team.
Yeah.
When Chad Henne was the quarterback, tossing it and having a quarterback that has a big arm and has a pocket presence, it just adds to the future of the fire. But they don't have that. Patterson's not that type of quarterback. He's a dual threat runner that can run the ball, and that helps him out. But coming to a defense like Ohio State, or if you get even remotely close to the playoffs, playing a team like Alabama or even Washington, it's going to get real. It's going to get real. It's going to be a real deal fight in the trenches. And I don't think the Michigan Wolverines can withstand any fight in the trenches, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, since we missed yesterday and on Friday and weren't able to do it on Friday with the most interesting games of week 7, what game? Because you seem pretty surprised by the LSU Georgia game and how LSU kind of dominated them. I think most people were, but what game kind of surprised you the most out of kind of the ones you were most interested to see, and maybe the outcome was different than what you expected?
Besides Georgia and LSU, I will have to definitely say Tennessee and Auburn. Just for the fact that Tennessee is not a top tier team, and Auburn was considered to be have a playoff berth this year, and then you lose to LSU, you lose a couple more teams, and then you lose to the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah,
to Tennessee Volunteers. Wellington.
Surprising.
Tennessee.
Mind-boggling.
Volunteers. No, I don't know. It's just they're off.
Yeah.
And I know they say that that their offense was better this year. That Stidham had, was solidified at the quarterback position.
They had the big non-conference win. They did beat Washington, right? They had the big non-conference win versus Washington.
But they had a lot of mistakes, and that started with Stidham throwing 2 interceptions, not reading through his progressions, making the subtle mistakes that'll cost you, and it did. They lost 30-24. I did not think Auburn was going to lose to Tennessee. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk. Just try to win out, get to Alabama, beat Alabama, and then have some bragging rights.
Yeah,
but they didn't do that.
Yeah,
but they still can beat Alabama.
They can, because I mean the Iron Bowl is completely unpredictable. Like that's the type of game where anything can happen. I would say West Virginia. That was.
Oh yeah, that was.
I mean that was the type of game you really didn't. I didn't expect, and the run game wasn't as consistent. And yeah, go ahead.
But wait though, guess who they beat last year? Oklahoma.
Yeah, there's a trend. Yeah.
And then they beat another team last year too, and they were like number 15. And I thought if they win out of it, but Iowa State is I'm sorry, I cut you off. It's all you. I know you don't lose.
No, go ahead. But the front seven has been banged up, and the one thing with Greer, because he had a lot of Heisman hype coming into this year, but he held on to the ball way too long, not making quick decisions, and the offensive line has looked kind of shaky too. But yeah, to me that was a game where, like, Iowa State has had big upset wins against Oklahoma last year and this year, but that was one I did not envision.
Me neither. Especially when West Virginia is number 6. Wow.
Yeah.
They haven't been this high-power offense since Geno Smith and Tavon Austin. Huh?
Wow. Tavon Austin for Dallas. I remember I told you I didn't think Dallas's receiving core was going to be really good, but you're like, no, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine.
I think now this game they beat Jaguars.
Yeah.
40-7.
Wow.
7. I'm sorry. They beat them 40-7. It looks like I still think their wide receiver core is good enough. It's just finding the right plays and reading the right progressions to the defense to get them the ball. If the offensive line gives Dak Prescott time like his first year, in his first couple years, I would say, then he can strategically throw the ball into the right zones, and it showed today the offensive line was blocking, passing, and running The running game was there. Pass game, Cole Beasley had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They look good. Their wide receiver core is okay. But, yeah, West Virginia losing to Iowa State. The Cyclones love ruining people's day.
They do. They just love ruining your year. Any expectations you have, they just love bringing it down.
Right. And I'm interested on where everyone's going to be now. Will Georgia drop that far? Will Florida move up? LSU move up? Will they move?
I mean, LSU's already back in the top 5.
What's that?
LSU's already back in the top 5.
Is it already out already?
Let me pull it up real quick. We're doing a full scope update.
Because if that's the case, I think Florida should be ahead of them because Florida beat LSU. Well, that's my trade. And I'm kind of biased. It's not kind of. I am biased.
You're very biased. But okay, yeah, they're saying Ohio State jumped to number 2 in the AP poll, LSU to number 5.
Wow, Florida at number 11.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, they didn't move up too far. Yeah. This is a Washington State at 25. This is a Cincinnati number 20. What's going on here?
Mayhem, absolute mayhem. Transitioning to the NFL, the Eagles had a very convincing win against the Giants, and at 3-3, I think Washington's at the top of the division right now, beating Carolina today. But they've last year their defense for the most part was able to stay healthy, but this year safety Rodney McLeod, I think he's still in IR due to a knee injury, and their offensive line, which I think is still one of the most complete units in the league, allowed a lot of pressure in that Tennessee game a couple weeks ago, and the receiving core in that game dropped a lot of key passes, and with Jordan Matthews and Nelson Aguilar. So my one big thing with this team is their third down offense efficiency was like out of this world last year. Wentz completed like 65% of his passes and had a 123.7 passer rating. And now they're without Frank Reich and John DeFilippo. And they were kind of the guys who were like the brain trust of the offense and kind of generated how creative, how inefficient of an offense this was. And now with them with the Eagles looking shaky, not as clear of a front runner as they were last year, and just having a phenomenal season. But my question to you is, do you think it's the textbook issues? Do in terms of just just the fundamentals not being executed as well, or how their third down offenses look? But what factors kind of stood out to you the most?
Well, they have this notion that they're still on a Super Bowl hangover. I don't think that's true at all. I think you have your starting quarterback was out still from the injury he sustained last season. Your Nick Foles kind of had a fall. He did go 1-for-1 as being the starter of this season, and then Carson Wentz comes back. You still have injuries. It's a lot of things that plays into that. It's a gel thing. Your starting quarterback just comes back. They're not losing by a lot either. So Alshon Jeffrey wasn't playing. He was out. So there's a lot of things going on and then you have Jai. I'm probably butchering his name. He's
on my
out.
fantasy team.
Sproles is out. And then you have these guys in Wendell Smallwood. It takes time to get these new guys and new faces to the point of where everybody's on the same page. And I think they did beat a battered New York Giants team, but I still think everybody starts slow. They're 3-3. They're still. Is that
the most like depressing situation in football right now? The Giants situation. I mean,
the Giants situation. I have it's a lot going on for them. It's too much to just. We'll have to have a whole segment on them next week, and I don't know, but it's just too much just to compile. And I don't want to take from the Philadelphia Eagles because they actually did beat them. but they started slow. It's not they, but like I said, they're not losing by much. Lose by 3 against Tennessee. Lose by 2 against Minnesota. And then they have Carolina, Jacksonville, Dallas, New Orleans, New York Giants again. They're still 1-0 in their lead the NFC East. They're still in a good spot. They're starting off slow. Carson Wentz is getting his feet back wet. The guys are getting back. The running game is working now. So, and they still banged up on the offensive line. Jason Peters get hurt. Last game against the Giants. So it's a lot of stuff going on for the defense as well. So just take it easy. They're fine. It's fine. They're still, it's still getting.
I do feel as though they're going to turn around like week 7, week 8, and just look like that same juggernaut that they were last year. I think it's going to take some time, but I do think this is going to be a very good team by the end of the year again.
All right, and no one can really run on them. The run there, I think they're number 7, and on the run, I think they only allow like 75 yards a game. Yeah. It's just their secondary has to steal some aches and pains. But they'll get there. The run game is fierce, but they just have to get the passing game there too. But they're not too far off. Actually they're number 3 in defense, allowing 79 yards, and then they're number 20 in passing, allowing like 273 yards. So it'll be fine. I believe in Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I would too. You're listening to. I feel like some music should be queued up for this game. This is huge, man. As a Patriots fan, I'm very nervous for this game. I'm waiting on you to tell me why I shouldn't be. But Kansas City has looked absolutely phenomenal the first 5 weeks. The offense has been lights out, and one of the interesting things I observed with this when I was researching for this game was the defense. They've given up 3 400-yard passing games, and they're 5-0. So that tells you, I mean, the defense has been really bad, but the offense is lights out. That there's so many weapons that they have. How they were able to really win handily against the number 1 scoring defense against Jacksonville, and in Jacksonville, they have another blowout loss to Dallas today. So we've seen what's been going on with their defense the last couple of weeks. Yeah. But New England, they've made improvements. I mean, Edelman's back healthy. Josh Gordon's looked pretty good. Tell me why I shouldn't be nervous for this game. Just give me a quick excerpt for why I should not be just terrified for what Kansas City could do to this defense.
I can't give you that reason. I really can't. But I can tell you it's okay. This is just for bragging rights and just to put a W and L. This is not a conference game. This is just a mono.
In January, this game could look. I mean, these two teams will look very differently if they meet up in a playoff or AFC championship.
Yeah, I think the stakes would change, but right now it's just bragging rights. This is another game on the schedule, but you have 2 great head coaches, and Andy Reid, and we know who Bill guy, the science guy, Belichick. Because he's a genius. He's real. He's a real deal genius.
I love how you introduced the science guy.
I have a nickname for everyone, but no,
the whites know.
You got 2 great squads, man. But I like Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. Yeah. He's that young guy. He's a mobile guy. He can elude guys. I've seen him get out of 5 sacks in one game and deliver 2 strikes for touchdowns. The man has a extremely big arm. He's smart. He knows how to read defenses, and I think he will take advantage of the shoddy secondary that the Patriots have. No, that's no offense to Patrick Chung and those guys, and McCourty, those guys. But they do actually, create turnovers. But I think Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Kareem Hunt, I think those guys will be far too much to match because it's really mirrored. They're exactly the same as the Patriots. So you're going against your offense, and I'm pretty sure you have trouble with Tom Brady. I'm pretty sure you have trouble with big Gronk back there and all the 20 running backs that you use. They literally use 20 running backs.
Yeah.
So it's literally a mirror team. I think Kansas City Chiefs is definitely 31st in passing yards. They do allow a lot of passing. But what matters the most, they crunch down in the goal line stance, and they do great wonders.
For all fantasy owners out there, this is a good week to have Julian Edelman. This is a good week to have Julian Edelman or any Patriots receiver.
Yeah,
Like,
I think Edelman goes off. I believe Ryan is injured, if I'm not mistaken. He's kind of probable. But I think they still have, Flash. They have big Gronk back there. They have too many running backs to name.
Has Gronk looked the same to you, or do you think he's looked he hasn't looked as dominant as he did like his first 3 years? I mean, like from that 2010 to 2012 stretch.
I think people gave him too much praise, to be honest. He's not that fast. It's just if the Patriots have wide receivers as threats on the outside, a lot of guys going to run cover 2 against Tom Brady to take away the deep routes. And that leaves the seam wide open for Gronk. If you go back to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl, they adjusted and they started throwing Gronk the ball in the seam because he's wide open against either a linebacker or a D tackle. Who's going to win that? Gronk, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's just about planning against him. Now, it might be open because they might run a lot of cover 2, cover man, and 2-man under. We'll see. It just depends. But I still think he's the same guy. It's just a different, game plan against him.
Yeah. So do you like Kansas City in this one?
I do like Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a shootout, though. I believe.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shootout.
And that's why I'd give Kansas City the edge too, because I think they can, if they win, if they score above 30 or at least 30, they're usually good in every game. And I think New England's going to score a lot of points too, but I would still give the edge to Kansas City just because their offense is probably the most potent offense in the entire league.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah. Transitioning to the NBA, the Jimmy Butler situation has escalated in ways I never thought it would escalate. And he had a fiery return to practice and, was playing with the third stringers and just dominating and called out the GM and, pretty much saying, like you need me, like you can't win without me. And now they're in a position where after 3 weeks, him submitting this trade request, now they still have him. We're two days away from the season opening. With how things are going now, I do eventually think he'll be traded. But what are your thoughts on how things are presently now, and also do you think he'll be traded next week, or do you think that this is something that could go on for a couple more weeks?
Definitely probably a couple more weeks because I think Tom Thibodeau is asking way too much for Jimmy Butler. He's a great player. He's a two-way player at that, and I think it'll take some time. But to kind of chime in on the situation, I think it didn't come out as well. He said that in his interview with ESPN, it didn't come out as well. But he meant every single word. And that's the crazy thing because a lot of these guys will talk on social media and all this stuff, but some of these guys don't back it up. This guy, Jimmy Butler, goes into his job because he still has a job with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
And he said, "I'm only here for an hour." Like he made that demand. I'm only here for an hour.
Right, and I'm going to show you Andrew Wiggins, all that talking he was doing on social media, Karl Anthony Towns, all you guys. Well, he didn't really say anything to Jeff T because I guess you're really true friends. But he called you out. I'm pretty sure you didn't want to play a one-on-one. So he said, "Oh, you don't want to play me one-on-one? Okay, I'll take the third stringers, and I bet we beat y'all." And the fact, and it's some buzz going around saying that these guys were laughing. That's terrible. If Jimmy Butler,
this is a horrible situation.
Yeah, if some D-League players beat you. That's what third string is. They're D-League players, and they beat you. You have to look in the mirror like, are we this good?
Are we like qualified to be in the league?
Because Andrew Wiggins shot more shots than anybody and had the worst percentage from the field goal. So it's like you need to focus on your game. Karl Anthony Towns need to focus on being a real man in the paint because that kind of showed everybody saw that it was in the first round of the playoffs. You want to talk about playoffs? Practice. They need to practice. They need to practice some more. They need to have an afternoon
E-leaguers
practice.
are beating you guys.
Right. That's crazy. And then he leaves. Do you know how
Demoralizing that is?
Crazy. I would feel so sad and mad at the same time, but you can't do anything. You really can't. But I'm behind Jimmy 100%. Jimmy, you are the guy, man. The guy.
He was, and it's interesting. One of the things he said was, Towns is the most talented player. Wiggins has like almost anything you'd want in a player, but I'm the hardest worker. That's, to me, like a call out on both those guys. Like, look, you guys have more talent than I do, but and you look at Jimmy Butler's story and the player, like when Jimmy Butler started out with when those years with Derrick Rose and the Bulls. I mean, he was just a defensive specialist. He wasn't like the two-way guy that he is now, and how he's worked up and being like one of the best competitors in the league. What were your thoughts on those statements and kind of like how he's morphed into a two-way player, but those guys just have come in the league with more talent?
I think that's a veteran advice to these young guys that need a foot up their behind, to be honest, because Karl-Anthony Towns is an exceptional big man, but he still has flaws. Definitely has flaws. And Andrew Wiggins he's vertical, crazy. His shot is okay when it's on, and he's a good defensive player. Like like you said, he has all the tangibles you want in a player, but you can't coach laziness. If a guy's not willing to put into the work and be able to buy in and accept, criticism, then that's not the type of player you want on your basketball team, talent or no talent. But I think that was a veteran advice, a veteran move. These guys are talented, but I'm the hard worker. I put in the work. I worked for all of this. I'm not saying they didn't, but it's a different move for Jimmy. It means more to him. He's a competitor.
Yeah. Last thing with this, I still feel as though Miami is probably the team that will get him. With Houston, there was the thing that the Timberwolves would have done a deal if they would have given up PJ Tucker, I think Eric Gordon, and a couple of first-round picks. Would you have done that deal if you were Houston's GM?
No, because they need PJ Tucker. Eric Gordon is an expendable piece. He's a great three-point shooter, but I'll take Jimmy Butler on Eric Gordon any day. But they just don't have a bench, and they're giving up a lot of bench players for him too. So just an overround, like I don't think I probably did that, even if it's Jimmy. No, giving up PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon, no, can't do that.
Yeah,
and then first-round picks, no, can't do that. They actually
So is there a team that you think he'll probably go to, or is it still kind of a little foggy for you right now?
It's still foggy, man. Just like I said before, that Tom is asking for a lot. Just like how people were.
But he's not going to get an up. He's not going to get like a Kawhi situation where both teams benefited. Like Toronto and San Antonio benefited, even though Toronto won that trade. That both teams benefited from.
Yeah, Spurs won that trade. Kawhi's leaving after this year. Kawhi's leaving.
Kawhi's going to be phenomenal season.
Yeah, Kawhi's leaving. Kawhi's leaving. But no, I think it's similar.
Can't wait for the season to start. Just so you can see how great Toronto is. But anyways, I digress.
They don't have a bench. No.
Really?
It's not going to be, like you said, it's not going to be that situation where both teams benefit. And I think, no, it's definitely not. Because Tom, he's literally asking for 40 acres, a move, a Cadillac, a McDonald's, a Wingstop, a Carl's Jr. Like, he's asking for a lot for Jimmy. And then, it's just too much. And right now it's definitely foggy. And I don't think a team will go above and beyond to get Jimmy. So you got to, down that price a little bit.
Yeah. And we were talking about Karl-Anthony Towns. Last year he was voted. The GMs, they do there's a GM survey every year before the season starts. And last year there was the question of if you had to start a franchise today, what player would you sign? And Towns was voted that player last year, and this year gets no votes. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, he gets 30% of the votes, with Davis following and Durant. So if you were in that, if you had to start a franchise today and sign any player of your choice, who would it be?
Are we talking about
today,
present?
Present, yeah.
I think it would definitely have to be Steph Curry. I think I would start a team around Steph Curry because he's the type of guy that can make everyone around him better. And we've seen that with the
surprised by that answer.
Yeah, I know, but I just thought about it from a point guard position. That's one of the most important positions.
For sure.
Field general, he's a game changer, and he makes everyone around him better. Like, you look at the squad that they cooked up, those guys, all draft picks, not high draft picks. You get Clay, he makes Clay better. He shifts all the attention on himself, which leaves everybody else open. He's fast, he's quick, he can finish at the rim. He's a guy that you want to start a franchise around, and I'm definitely picking Steph Curry. First round. You know what I'm saying? First round.
Yeah,
Cooking
and
with Curry.
I would go Giannis. And
yeah.
And the thing is, he had a 27-10-5 season last year with not a very good coach, because they were stuck with Joe Prunty after they let go of Jason Kidd. They were stuck with him. They were literally stuck with him.
That was so subtle. It was a subtle diss. They were stuck with.
I hope I was really hoping you caught it, but you did.
I did.
And they've got
one, bro.
And now they've got a huge upgrade with Budenholzer. And really, what I was saying with Prunty was, when you have a coach like Budenholzer who's had a 60-win season with the Hawks team that didn't have this one alpha player, because that was a team with Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Kyle Korver, a ton of guys, Dennis Schroeder, a ton of guys who weren't the type of players that are alpha players, or one of the 5 best players in the league. And now what he's going to be able to do with Giannis and surrounding him with 4 shooters. And Giannis at 6'11", he just has a skill set to me that is just kind of unparalleled. And the fact that they're going to have more spacing, and he could have maybe a 30-12-6 stat line this year consistently, and that's an MVP caliber season. So I think he's going to take a big jump. I think Milwaukee's going to take a big jump. And wait,
Wellington.
Yeah.
You're selling the Milwaukee Bucks. You're supposed to be selling Giannis.
Oh yeah. I know. But
you just trying to get everything together in a conglomerate.
I'm literally just corroborating everything. Yeah, but you're definitely right. I was putting in Milwaukee there as too, but I would definitely go Giannis, because I just think his skill set right now is just he's at his peak. It's kind of unparalleled, and I think the position he's going to be in now is going to just even highlight that more.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Were there any other things about the GM survey that stood out to you? Because I know they had Jamal Murray as the most improved player. I'm not sure they had for the 6th man. I'm not sure they had it for the 6th man pick, but they also said the Lakers had the best offseason. Was there any other pick that the GMs made that kind of stood out to you?
Not really. I like that the Lakers pick. I think they did have a great offseason. Even though they didn't, win as many games. I mean, I don't think the expectations are really high. I think they're only that's
your finals pick
because of LeBron James.
That's your finals pick, right?
Almost definitely. But right now, I like that they're having fun. The Laker fun basketball is back. Kobe Bryant was the strict, serious guy. After Kobe left, Shaq left, and now he had to be the field general. He had to be this butthole. But now LeBron James is in the Lakers uniform. Everybody's having fun. Lance Stevenson is doing.
Lance Stevenson is getting ejected. Awesome.
What? Come on, kick him while you're down, Hob Wellington. Come on, man. But I like that pick though. I like the Lakers. I think Lakers gonna turn some heads. They're definitely gonna go to the finals.
Conference finals, right?
No, the NBA finals.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably second round. I'd probably say second. And that's not bad. That like I don't think that's bad. I think if they had a 46, 47 win season and are like a fifth seed and able to get the second round, I think that would be a successful first year. And then the second year you get another big time free agent. I think that would be a successful season.
Well, I'm gonna pose one more question before we end this. So we've seen
it's good to be back.
we've seen what LeBron James did with a team that was terrible.
Yeah, 51 team.
The trade deadline acquisitions and inquiries, whatever you want to call it, acquiring different players, and they still went to the NBA Finals. Now he has an even better team, not as great, but a better team. And you say that it'll get put out second round. Is they're going to put out second round because of
how good the West is?
Okay, there we go.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
there we go.
Has nothing else.
Okay, because the East is that we know the East is not as strong as the West. Yeah, obviously because the West has been dominating the finals for some time now. But yeah, that was my only question, and I kind of answered my own question while I was asking the question.
I know the West is really good, but what do you think?
Yeah, like I still think it's LeBron James. I still think he goes to the finals. I think he goes to the. It hasn't been a finals without LeBron James. He has to go. He has to go.
Yeah, and the conference finals pick. I'm not going with that, but I know. Hey, if having faith in him is that always makes the most sense. But I'm just saying he would also have to vote against either an extremely elite Rockets or Warriors team. I just can't see that the first year.
Well, they did beat him in preseason twice. So
that always counts for something, right?
Yeah, that always counts. Yeah.
Jamal Murray or Jason Tatum for most improved player of the year?
Tatum. Yeah, I gotta go with Jason. Yeah. Just all around, the guy stepped up to the plate, improved the jumping percentage, field goal percentage, dunked on LeBron James, almost went to the NBA Finals. You got to go for him.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for tonight. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. This has been Full Scope. See you later.
Woohoo!